Today I wanted to go over a technique I use to maintain, condition, and lubricate my dive watches, gaskets, and seals. So this technique is going to work pretty much for any type of dive watch that you might have. And this watch here is a Vostok Komodorski K35, which is a nice, in my opinion, a really nice dive watch for the money. You can have these, you can buy these for under $70. They're made in Russia, but they're robust and great dive watches. And I'll provide a link to the review of this particular watch that I have on my site. But what I want to talk about today is conditioning and lubricating those gaskets. And this is needed for when you might go scuba diving or snorkeling. All it's going to do is you're using a silicone grease, which is something like this, and you're going to be applying that to your gaskets on your watch. And that grease is going to prevent water from coming in. It also conditions your gasket and prevents it from drying out, which is important because once those rubber seals start drying out, they start cracking, and there goes your waterproof rating. So this brand here, this is Danco, and it's actually a plumber's grease. They call it waterproof grease. But you can use pretty much any type of silicone grease, and that's the key thing here is you want to use a silicone grease. You don't want to use anything with petroleum, or that is petroleum based, so no heavy duty greases, nothing that was made from a petroleum based product. And the reason is those petroleum based products will absorb into the rubber, and it causes more harm than good. Whereas this silicone grease does not do that, and it's not going to harm rubber or any type of O-ring seals. Again, this stuff here I use just because it's cheap. They have specific formulas that are made for watch seals, but they're a lot more expensive. This Danco grease here, you can pick up at Home Depot, Lowe's, and it's going to run you about $3 to $4. So great deal. This is enough for a lifetime use of watch maintenance. But what you want to do, so first thing I need to do is take this watch apart, the case back off. So let me get the NATO strap off. There. And we're going to remove the case. So I've already kind of shown some of this on some of my videos, but let me loosen up this ring here, which we broke loose. And we'll go ahead and remove that. And carefully pop that off there, and we're going to pop off the case back carefully. There we go. Okay, case back's off. We'll set that aside, and we can see our first seal that prevents water from getting inside the movement. So what you want to do is get your little pick and just carefully remove that seal without damaging it. There we go. I'm just kind of going under the lip to break it free. And you see I've got the seal loose now. And I will just carefully remove that with my finger and set it aside, or set the watch aside. And what you want to do is always go the same direction. So we pulled it out of the watch this direction, so we don't want to flip it. We want to keep it in the same direction because that's just better for this seal here. Okay, so we're going to set that aside, and you want to keep it clean. So I've got some paper towels here that I'm going to lay that seal on. Okay, there we go. And then next, what I want to do is remove the crown. So we'll unscrew the crown. Hopefully I'm in focus here. Pull out the crown into the position there. And we are going to push on the little spring plunger right there, which will allow us to release the crown from the movement. So I'm pushing it in, and look at that. The crown just pops right out. So now the watch movement I'm going to set aside so I don't bang it or get any type of grease inside that movement. You don't want to get any in there. All right, so there is a look at the Vostok crown gasket inside there. So what we want to do is just get a tiny little bit of grease and just make sure your hands are clean. And I'm going to get just a tiny little bit. It doesn't take much. In fact, that's probably more than I need for this whole project. But what I like to do is just kind of work it onto my fingers a little bit there. And then I'll just spread it evenly like that along the seal. And you can see that nice coat of silicone grease on both sides. And now I'm going to set that aside. It's basically done. You can take your case back too, and just the leftover remnants, just put it on the back there. It's not going to hurt anything as long as you don't go overboard. So I'm going to just put just a tiny little dab, right there. And again, we're going to work that into the edges without making a mess. So we'll just coat that, and that's done. Okay, I've got a spare paper towel here to clean off my fingers. All right, next we're going to do the crown gasket, which you'll see inside there. And the easiest way I found to do this is just to, if I can get this thing to focus for you guys. Doesn't want to focus, does it? Always want to be difficult. There we go. The easiest way I found to do this is with a toothpick. Something that can reach inside there, because that's the gasket right there. So I'm going to go grab a toothpick here. And we're going to continue on with this process of putting just a touch of grease on the end of it, and it don't need much again. You can put too much and that's not good. So that is more than I need, so let me just kind of work a little bit onto the tip. There. That's all you need. Tiny little bit is all you need. And you just want to lightly coat it in there. Just like that. You can put a little bit on the inside of these threads here. That's not going to hurt a thing. In fact, it'll probably waterproof a little more, but just don't put more than you need. So I'm going to grab just a tiny little bit more. There. You can see that's a tiny, tiny little amount. And I'm going to run that on the inside of these threads. You can use a cloth or something like that too. Just make sure you don't get too much lint inside these components. And that's basically done. All right, now we're going to be very careful here. And we're going to put a tiny little bit of grease on the flat surface right there. And that also is going to help with the seal on your crown. So I've got a little more of my silicone grease. I'm carefully going to apply that onto that surface. And again, I'm just going to use my finger. And you can put a little bit on the threads too. It's not going to hurt anything. Just, again, a tiny little bit is all you need. There we go. That's good. And you can also, if you want, put a little bit down in that little surface area there that the gasket sits on. So we'll go ahead and just do just a tiny little bit there. I'm just going to use my finger to put a little dab right there. You can see it. And I'll use this little toothpick just to kind of apply it. Just work it in. If you rotate the movement, since the crown's out, the movement can rotate inside this protective anti-shock sleeve. You can see here I'm able to rotate it. Just orient it in line with your crown threads here. That way when you apply that, put the crown back in, it's going to go right in. Okay, and that's basically it. So let me set the watch down here and I'll start putting it back together. So we take our seal and we're going to carefully place it in, and I'm going to use the toothpick to seat it properly. And this one's being a little difficult, but there we go. Perfect. And again, we lightly greased that surface too. And we're going to make sure we orient our case back properly. So that's the direction I want it to go. Set it on there, make sure you've got a decent seal. And then you can also just, any leftover on your finger, just run it here on this, the threads. You can see if I get to focus the little threads right there. You can put a little dab if you want, it's not going to hurt anything. Just go light. Like that. I'll just spread that around, working it around. There we go. Okay. And then we just need to put that back on. Oops, I'm sorry guys. I forgot to put the crown in, so we need to pop this back off here and stick our crown in first. So let's do that. Sorry about that guys. There you go. See the crown? We'll get our little plunger tool. And again, we're going to push that little spring plunger right there, which lets the crown go back in. You can see it threading, hopefully threading on right there. So, sorry I forgot that step. There we go. And we'll go back to our case back again. There. We'll set our ring on there. We have a little toothpick here to help get the threads to catch. Sometimes it can be a little tricky with these, but usually not too bad if you have them stable. There we go. I feel it catching, and then we'll just go ahead and just walk that around until it's semi-tight. And use our case back tool, and we'll seat it up on there nice and snug. Not over tight, don't have to be. There we go. And after that, guys, this thing, make sure my crown is completely screwed down. Use this cloth just to get off any of the grease that got on the case. That right there is a process I like doing to my dive watches before I go scuba diving out in the ocean. This right here is going to prevent any water from getting in there. As long as you do this, it's going to keep your seals in great shape, lubricated, keeps them from drying out, and you're going to minimize the chance of water getting into your dive watch. So hopefully you found this helpful. Again, the tips I want to mention is to use 100% silicone grease. No petroleum-based products on watch seals. And then just go light. You don't need a whole lot. This will work with just about any type of watch, dive watch that there is. Anyways, I hope this helps you guys. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. Take care.